Hi, this is Iris, and first of all, I want to thank Craftsy for setting me up with a great video smartphone setup. So, thank you. And this is the first of a series of videos I'm going to create for helping you to follow my techniques. In this one, I'm going to show you how I do cabling without a cable needle, just a 1x1 cross. I'm also going to show you how I always knit front back into the first of that center increase pair when I work my various modular shapes. In this case, I'm doing a diamond. So follow along and have fun. Thanks. Here's my current project, and what I'm doing, as you can see, is I wrap the unworked yarn up over the working yarn so that it doesn't leave an unsightly long loop along the edges, which I would have to, unfortunately, if you have long loops along the edges, you have to cut them and weave them in, so that's not a good way. So what I'm going to do is show you first how I cable without a cable needle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit until the spot where I need to cable. And this is a really easy cable. It's just a 1x1. And you could see my cable from the previous pattern, and I'm actually lining it up, and you could with stitch markers. In this case, I could just eyeball it and see that it's going to start in this stitch, so I have to still knit one more over. And the next two stitches need to be crossed or cabled, and I need to cross them so that the second stitch goes in front of the first stitch on my needle. So what I do is I take my needle and I pass it through both stitches, and then I take my left needle and I grab the stitch from behind. For 1 second, don't cringe here, I let go of the stitch in front and then I grab it with the right needle, and I've actually physically crossed them in the direction I want. So here they are crossed, and I knit that stitch, which was the second stitch first, and then I knit the first stitch, and I have that crossed cable. And I do the same thing on the other side, but the other side is actually crossing where my first stitch has to cross over my second stitch, and it crosses in the front of it. So I take the two stitches off with my right needle, slipping them over. I put my left needle in the front of the second stitch, and then, like, for 1 second, and again, don't cringe here, I'm going to drop that stitch and then grab it with my right needle so that my right needle has the second stitch, my left needle has the first stitch, and then I pass it back on because I'm going to knit that second stitch first, which is what the cable is. You're knitting the stitches out of order. So I'm going to knit that stitch and knit the stitch after. And here, as you could see, are my crossed cables. And in the pattern, I need to purl 4. I'm going to do that. And if you stay with me, you'll see me doing it again. I think I get to do it a few times until I reach that center increase pair. And here you could see I'm going to do it quicker this time. Just grabbing the stitches, twisting them, and knitting them out of order so that the right one is in front and the back one is in back. And then I'm going to do it again, but going in the other direction. And this time from the front, I grab it. You see the one I lost over there? I'm going to grab it from behind and put it in front of my needle and knit it out of order. And there I go, and that's my second grouping, I think. And now what I wanted to show you was my center increase pair. And as you can see, I can identify, because not because I use a marker, I like to lose the marker because it's much easier for me to identify by that little half a stitch. And that was the extra stitch I made with the knit front back in the previous row. And in my patterns, I always increase in that little half a stitch, the one that's not rooted anywhere. It was just created in the previous row. And this is my center increase pair. They're kind of joined at the hip. It's really easy to see that that's the half stitch. And if you turn your work around, which I'll do, you could see it as well, that it was the second stitch created when I did the knit front back in the previous row. So the stitches are kind of stuck together. They don't move freely, and you can feel for them and you can view them. And it's really great in knitting to learn to read your work. So I'm going to do my knit front back right into that first stitch, and I'm going to knit the second stitch. And as you could see, because I started the cables right, I ended the cable in the stitch right before the knit front back, I'm going to start my next group of cables in the stitch right after the knit front back. And once again with those cables, I'm going to do them without a cable needle. And I'm going to purl. Actually, sorry, I have to do my second one, which is I have to leave the yarn in the back, that's right. And I pass the yarn, I pass one stitch over, and then I knit them out of order. And here's what I worked so far on this row. So thanks for sharing this with me, and happy knitting.